Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spark Notes. This is a series where I take games that you send to me and I go over and provide critique, as well as just look them over and see if there's anything that you can improve on. Remember, if you want a chance to have me look at your games, or just anybody in the Discord server, go ahead and click the link down below to join that, as well as go ahead and like, subscribe, as well as go follow the Twitch and follow me on Twitter if that is something that you're interested in. We stream 4 times a week, and it's a great time. Anyway, this is a Gold 1 game. This is a player that was, from what I understand, trapped in Gold 1 last season. He played well in this game, but still ended up losing and wanted some insight as to what is going wrong. I like doing these lower elo games because I feel like they give a little bit more of a better representation of what is going on in your guys' shoes, rather than me playing in a lower elo and just kind of sharding on people that are a bit worse at the game, right? So we'll go ahead and speed up. It's a little laggy, so we'll just come back whenever we get to a part that is relevant, because it evens out here in a minute. Okay, so starting off strong, for like starters, I really enjoy the positioning that you kind of put yourself in here. I think that in the lower parts of the game currently, that it's a much better idea to kind of get into the headspace of harassing backline, but doing so appropriately with abilities. And what do I mean by that? I pretty much mean I enjoy the idea of like kind of being a nuisance, right? If you see Spider-Man players playing in lower elo, a lot of the time they're gonna get more value. Thank you for the follow, whoever's watching. They're gonna get a lot more value out of just being annoying in the backline, drawing attention away from your tanks. I want you to like think about this really quick, right? We take a look at the people on our team, and we take a look at the people on their team right now. We are up the exchange as we go ahead and see we hit tab there, down a Venom. But look at the Rocket, Thor, Cloak, and Punisher, and our Emma. They are kind of like looking towards us, so it's going to be a bit easier for Rocket to like Hail Mary pass some like heals over this way. But look at what their team is doing. Moon Knight is looking at us. Rocket is looking at us. They have 2 people of 4 looking at 5 people. And that spells recipe for disaster, right? Obviously. So this is a really good position, because what you've done is essentially you've created a giant diversion for your team, and what we call is kind of an off angle. This could be just a flank. This could be somewhere from like an angle that our people are just not expecting as much. I didn't realize Spider-Man was up here, but like another option would be up here. The idea is that you kind of want to take pressure away from your team. I want you to think about it. So what would be easier to deal with? Looking down a hallway of 6 people. You know, it's a hallway filled with corridors, and there's 6 people at the end of the hallway. Is it easier to focus on all 6 people in that area? Or is it easier to focus on a person behind you, a person to your left, a person in front of you? You know, it's easier to look at all of the people like at the end of the hallway. Essentially what we're doing is we're forcing them to make a decision, and it's really hard for them to make the correct decision, especially in this low elo. This works in high elo as well. They have to deal with you, or they have to deal with your team, but you're the easiest problem, so they're going to turn around, and we just like let this play out. You are harassing, taking up all the space. Rocket chooses to turn around, but Moon Knight chooses to fight you, thinking that you are the easier target. He dies, the Rocket ends up leaving him be, and now you put your team in a much better situation because they're down a person, and now you're allowing your team to just straight up win the engagement. Now we can see how the rest of this will play out, because now you have a free lane into their backline, which is great. Very good portal usage, which is a lot better than a lot of people would do, especially for the rank. Not bad. And now you've essentially staggered the Moon Knight. The Moon Knight is going to be on a really bad rotation if the rest of his team doesn't die fast. Oh no, he's not going to be staggered. They're all going to come back together. But regardless, you got a lot more done because you divided the attention. Divide and conquer. Take space, fight for that space, and then hold that space to create an easier opportunity for your team, right? It's a much better situation to put yourself in as well as your team. Okay, so large thing that I want to talk about. We call this something, it's called passive pathing. There's a YouTuber, and his name is Shoddy, I believe, who covers this very well. I'll have a link to his channel down below, actually. So I want you to kind of think of something, right? This goes for a majority of the time when playing DPS. Like, this is going to be very beneficial, because DPS, kind of the role is not necessarily about getting picks. That's not really all there is to it. It's more about making pressure, like pressuring something. Getting something out of a transaction, something super duper good. Every situation in Marvel Rivals, in Overwatch, in Apex Legends is about is a transaction. What are you getting versus losing, right? You want to kind of put it into a series of like, if I do this thing, what am I losing from doing this thing, right? Super important. Off angles and the way that you approach a fight are incredibly important for this kind of thing. So if we go ahead and just take a look, we know little of what lies beyond this, but because of where we're doing the spectator mode, we are actually able to kind of get a glimpse at what they're seeing, right? So I want you to kind of think about it this way. You're playing a character that really wants to be harassing the backline, doing a lot of damage to the squishy sharpshooters, people like the Squirrel Girl, the Rocket, the Cloak and Dagger, things like that, which are very, very, very helpful. But if we come at it from a super duper obvious angle, right, which is in front of this is what we would call main, right? The main area that people would typically push from is this pretty much front door, this big window. Rather than coming from somewhere like over here, we'll call this A, which is the left side, or C, which is going to be this like right side where there's a lot of natural cover. We come from B, where there's some natural cover, sure, but there are going to be a lot of people able to land eyes on us. Even if they're like Cloak and Dagger and the Rocket were not looking, we have to go with the expectation that the enemy team is going to be calming, right? Because that is the proper thing for them to do, or they're going to at least mark you with a ping. Because if they do that, you're going to run into the issue of now they know where you are, and then you're giving yourself away, showing all of your cards early, right? And we don't want that. But let's take a look from a different perspective, right? So we know that there are 3 people looking at the door, and there's a 4th and 5th person right here. If we were to have pushed from this angle right here, we would have had a lot more natural cover and given a lot better of a chance to help the supports and whatnot over here. But because we came from kind of an obvious angle, you're going to be able to see from like Squirrel Girl's perspective, where she sees you and you're incredibly obvious, and then it's very easy for her to just change her directive and start hitting you because you're now in the crowd. And ultimately, the amount of value that you get becomes 0 from the play that we just did. And this, a lot of it, is because we came from an angle where... Hello? Okay. Where we are like kind of being visible from a lot of angles. We're now showing ourselves to the supports, who are now no longer going to be nervous of the idea of we're diving them, right? The Squirrel Girl is now looking at you and just like, oh, look, another dude to get hit by my acorns that I'm shooting in a straight line. The Thor is now going to be able to not the Thor, the Wolverine and the Venom are just now going to be able to harass you, and you're providing a lot less help to the people over here. You're kind of brawling with your front line, but Magik in this season in particular isn't super duper great at it, unless like you are behind them. But you're kind of in the mix, especially with a lot of burst damage being rained down upon you, right? You're kind of putting yourself in a position where you got 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 4 person, 5 person, 6 person, just like in the middle of a 0 health Magik now because you're taking a lot of damage. And if we were to just go about this in kind of a different way and take an angle more so over here on the left or more so on the right, at least we are pressuring either their healers, allowing their other people to not take a lot of damage, or like not heal all the damage that they're taking back, or we're pressuring the Squirrel Girl, who's going to take a lot of damage, allowing us to be in a better position and help our tanks out, especially in a situation like this where you were officially down a player. Your Cloak and Dagger is in spawn, and they're not around for this fight, so it's just your Rocket. You have to take something off the board to even the score, or else it's just going to be a default loss without ultimates, right? You understand? Because then the transaction becomes 6 versus 5, and you have less money to work with than the other team, kind of, sort of, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so another thing. All right, this is going to be a perfect example of like what we were just talking about, right? So we come back to the fight, and things are looking kind of bleak, and we're kind of in another position where evening the score is going to help quite a bit. But we're coming in from an angle that is incredibly obvious, and if we back up just a little bit as well, kind of look at how long it's going to be until we get our other cooldowns, right? So we come in, and now we have a 1 portal, and we have 1 dash to engage with, because we took this route, and now we're at the front of the team fight. I want you to think about it this way, right? Magik is a character that is incredibly reliant on her cooldowns to move around, deal with the fight, and pressure people in a fight, right? If you do not have majority of them, so like let's say for instance, like you portal and then you dash at this cloak right here, right? And you miss, then you're going to die. So we're using a lot of cooldowns to get back into the fight when we kind of need to be holding them. If we're going the shortest route, you don't really need to be doing all this. I understand the sentiment of wanting to get back to the fight very fast, but you're going to be useless upon entering if you're coming from an angle like this one. Now, if we were to do what we were talking about earlier, look at the situation and layout of the fight, right? The first thing that you always want to do on any DPS character, any support character, or any tank player coming back into a fight is do this. Press your scoreboard button for whatever platform you're on and measure ults, who's alive, ults, and death timers, right? So everyone's alive in this situation. So the pressure hasn't really ramped up quite yet. You know, we were the only person dead, and here we are back on like our toes getting ready to come back into the fight. But the issue is like, look at where we're coming from. We're showing ourselves again, all of our cards. What are we going to do if we approach this Cloak and Dagger ultimate? Nothing. Right? There's nothing that we can do in this situation. We can't even gain ult charge because we still have our ultimate. So we're just giving away everything, and then we're retrieving nothing for doing so, right? So I want you to kind of think of things like more in a perspective of how can I approach a fight? What is the proper way for me to approach this fight? Your teammates on the top right have a much better idea because they're pressuring something. They have to either look it up here or they have to look down here at the two people on the floor. Now you could go right, which would be an okay play. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing so because then you're at least assisting the Rocket if he gets pressured by the Wolverine. You're at the very least going to allow a little bit of pressure to be alleviated, or you can take more of a left-sided attack and notice that the Rocket has been away. We looked at the fight last round and we saw the Rocket and the Cloak and Dagger really trend to be far away from their team, and they're very easy to kind of disrupt in that regard. Remember the first fight that we had where we were able to get into their business? We were just like dealing with it very, very well. But because we're coming from this angle, I want you to like kind of look at it from a bird's eye view of like what is going to be seen, right? So we jump down, we portal in, so now we are officially only at one cooldown to do anything with. We drop the portal, their whole team looks at us, and we run it down in a straight line at them. But also, our team didn't die, you know? So we could have taken that extra time and we would have been okay. But our team ended up living for the most part. You know, they're fine. The Rocket didn't get pressured. Nothing really bad has happened yet other than the Thor might be in a little bit of trouble. But now we've essentially staggered ourselves again, right? And a lot of it became from where we're pathing from. Pathing is an incredibly important tool, especially when taking off angles. And right now we're not taking any angles. You know, we're opening the front door and yelling, "Hey, here I am. Your pizza's delivered," right? And we are the pizza. So this is a really, really, really rough interaction to be a part of, right? You don't ever want to be putting yourself in a position where you're giving away everything and you have nothing to show for, right? It's a very, very, very rough time for you and your team. Okay, so next thing. All right, so now it's ultimate time. We have our ult. I feel like this is very important. I'm not gonna harp on this like pathing thing the entire video, but just taking a second, I feel like a lot of people can probably understand where this is like kind of a problematic situation to be in, right? So remember that we always want to be pressing tab, noticing that nobody on our team is dead yet, and that everybody other than us are like on the floor already. Well, Groot's gone, but this fight isn't exactly like dire per se. Like people are okay. We're healthy enough to kind of hang. If you even look at like the top left again, the only people that are like hurt is again our Thor. But we pop ultimate from an incredibly far place away. And because of this, we use 2 cooldowns just to get up here. And we kind of get kited really hard, right? And a lot of this is, again, because of the angle that we take. Coming from this front door is a death trap for Psylocke players, Iron Fist players, Magik players. Unless there's a fight to be had at the front door itself, we're just giving away a lot. You know, using the Magik ult is already a big, like, beacon of, like, oh my gosh, where is Magik? But now imagine if you were to do this from a place like over here or on the right-hand side. I know it's not always an optimal situation. You're not always going to be able to be there. But even if you just came closer and then popped the ultimate, you would have at least had a little bit of an easier time kiting, like getting over there and not being kited so well from the team on the other side of the spectrum, right? Because we'll go ahead and back up and we'll kind of like view this from a situation of like the squirrel girl that we just harassed, right? So just backing up a little bit. You hear Behold Dark Child. Where is she looking? You know, she sees you. And you're really not that big of a problem to her because of how far away we popped it. And she's able to just like run back very, very easily. And again, you're like a big giant beacon. And then the first thing that she's going to start shooting at is you. And you can see the Squirrel Girl's not mechanically gifted in this terms. You know, she might be new, whatever her situation may be. But you could have been in a very, very solid situation to pressure something and kill something with the ultimate. But instead, we kind of used it really far, didn't get a lot of value, and then we ended up losing a proper resource. Remember, you give something and then we take something away, right? So we gave an ult, but a lot of what we did, we made a lot of space, which was good, but it's still a 6-on-6, right? We didn't really get a lot of value, but we could have gotten more. You know, we made a lot of space, so that's good. We got a little bit of something, but we could have gotten more. Always want more from something. Always try to improve it. And I think a lot of it would have come better if we would have just either ulted a little later or came from a different angle, providing something a little bit better for our team and giving us the best situation and best kind of chance possible to get something for what we're doing, right? Which would have helped. But we'll go ahead and see how the rest of this team fight plays out. So Squirrel Girl ended up killing your teammate. You do kill the backline, which is great. And you kill the spider. So overall, this is a pretty decent team fight for you and your team. And you did a pretty decent job. That space that you made was great. But it could have been a much more guaranteed play had we just like fine-tuned some little things, right? Rather than making it kind of like a 60-40 chance. You know, we could have made it like a 70-30 chance. But overall, great. You know, could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. Crazy killing the Spider-Man. Love to see it. End of the first. And at the end, stats are looking pretty decent. 9 final hits, and we've already established like at least 2 of the deaths that we had. We probably could have shaken it up and made it just a little bit better for us as a whole and fixed up some things to give us just a little bit of a better like fighting chance, making what we gained from a transaction just that much better for us, right? Okay, so going ahead and starting out, I think it's really important that we like kind of talk about the good things and we're not just talking about the bad things. I think it's incredibly great for players like as a whole to kind of understand like what good parts of their gameplay they're doing and how they can even improve on that, because you want to get into the rhythm of keeping the good and getting rid of the bad, so that way you can see the new bad things that you weren't even paying attention to prior, right? So already, I like this entrance way more than going through the front door. If you think about it this way, right? So you didn't show with their whole team and you didn't show with the Hulk because you probably would have followed the Hulk in, right? Followed the Hulk to main point if you guys started here. But because of that, the reaction was a bit delayed, and then they kind of walked a point here without acknowledging you because you weren't seen with the rest of your team quite yet. I think that this is really good because if we back up just a little bit, we can see that the Cloak and Dagger doesn't really acknowledge you, right? And we can move forward. I would urge you to even dash after her here and like try to keep pace and then portal after her again, because what we're kind of aiming for is to put her in a really, really tough spot. And then essentially, if we'll go ahead and like just let it move along a little bit, essentially the idea is that you kind of walk and posture yourself towards the door. So if we go ahead and just like take a look at it this way. So let's say you did dash and portal after her and she made it this far, right? This is Cloak. And here you are, which you are Magik. We'll make a square head to kind of like help this out a little bit. Then you can kind of make a direct like cutoff here, and then you can force her into a worse position where she's got to either use a utility piece and then go back up this elevator where then we can chase her even again. And then she's in a like solidified one-on-one spot where their team has to take resources away to help her. Or she moves over here to the right and then we are able to then further cut her off and then pressure her even more because she's so much further away from her team. And then after dealing with her in that regard, we are going to allow ourselves to move on to another character like the Rocket. Maybe we can then focus on helping our tanks with their tanks or defending our backline, right? There's a lot of options that we now have because we dealt with the situation. I think that it's great that you ended up moving and helping, like, just acknowledging, hey, you know, she didn't really respect the fact that I'm here. But this is one of the situations where you do want to actually use your cooldowns and try to get there to make it so she's just not a part of this fight at all. I think that it's probably a loss regardless on this particular fight because they used ults and we didn't use almost any other than Groot. But it's a very good habit to go ahead and start getting into. But at least you guys all die on the same timer, which is good. Okay, so I like to pick this fight out in particular because I think this is going to lead from like a snowball chain of like something we did wrong into another thing that we did wrong. So I think it's kind of a good 1-2. Because there's a lot to unpack in this situation. So there's gonna be a little bit of a log cut. I know we're lagging, but I think that the overall like kind of idea is still present. Okay, so they ult and we ult, and I understand the sentiment of wanting to like harm the Rocket here and like get him out of the fight, which is good. So I actually don't mind it. But once we get like make contact with the Spider-Man and after the dash we don't kill, it's kind of the same concept of like if Black Panther like uses both of his spears and his dash, and now he has almost nothing to follow up with. They're not gonna die. It's time to go, right? Use your dash and leave. In like Spider-Man situation after the uppercut, if they're not dead and you don't have the Venom team up, it's time to go. It's time to leave because you're not really going to be able to get a lot more after you use your util. Same concept here. Spider-Man ends up helping him quite a bit. And now we're pressured by the Wolverine. It's time for us to just like kite back into our team, especially given the fact that we have a support ult and they're just starting to help our team out in that way. But we're separating our team. Remember what we talked about earlier? This is kind of like the difference is that we're separated off from our team, and now there's kind of like a blockade in front of us, and we're not really able to get back, but we also just walk backward again. So now we're essentially making this a 6-on-5, because once we round this corner, Wolverine stops caring about what we're doing and goes back to help us team, right? But we're not able to give the same. So our transaction is essentially we gave our pretty much presence in a team fight for nothing. Like the Rocket got hurt a little bit and then healed, and the Wolverine got hurt a little bit, but it doesn't matter because he's Wolverine, and he's going to get healed because it's a 6-on-5 and they have both healers, right? Kiting back to your team would have been good. We're hiding from like an ult, I think, but we're also incredibly healthy. You know, we have full HP here. You know, we were in a pretty okay situation. Even if Wolverine used passive, it's a piece of utility we use, and we still had our portal, right? You know, we had a good opportunity, but we kite back to this like health pack for not really a particular reason. Here we start lagging a little bit, but if we were in the fight a little bit more, like rather than kiting backward, we would have been okay. But unfortunately, we just didn't provide much to our team, and we're ending up giving them a lot here, right? Which is a very, very tragic situation to be in. Now we're going to get into the big thing. This is the biggest red flag I've ever seen. If I saw you do this and I knew you in real life, I'd go to your house and I'd light your bed on fire. Not actually. That's in-game. But this is I don't even think we have to talk about why this is not a great ult. You guys have they have 50%, right? There's not really a whole lot of pressure here. You guys at least have one more fight, maybe two, depending on how fast you lose or win it. But we end up ulting here when our whole team is back off of a respawn timer. The problem that I have with a situation like this is even if we kill somebody, one person, if we still die at the end of it, it was essentially for nothing because we used it ultimate to do it, right? So if we kill one person and we die, if your team does not directly win because of the person that you killed, it is essentially avoided fruitless attempt because you're using a lot of resources here to claim something unless they also use an ultimate. Case in point, we kill Wolverine, which is great. But then we immediately die afterward. And now if we just go ahead and look at the state of the fight, our team is spread. Groot isn't even here yet. Hulk is here, and Punisher is here, and Cloak and Rocket might get here before Punisher dies. But we didn't even kill a healer. And does Rocket res the Wolverine? No. Okay, so we had that going at the very least. But now we're late to this fight, and we're going to be staggered. But their Wolverine's on a smaller timer. He's going to get back a little bit quicker than we are, right? And their team already has the point. All they have to do is stall here to, like, get a lot more out of this. And then, to make matters worse, Spider-Man just gets a 2-piece. Well, what happens now, right? We're off spawn, and our team is dead for 7 more seconds. We have to wait another 7 more percent for the rest of our team to come back. But then, it gets even worse, because Hulk is dead now, and now Hulk is on a 10-second timer. Do you see what I'm talking to? Are you following this? Like, this is kind of a really sticky situation, because now you've essentially created a snowball of being on a bad rotation of respawns, right? You're staggering your team based on one play that you did, and it won't seem like that in the given moment, but now we're kind of seeing a domino effect occur, right? This one play turned a very winnable round because we had a lot of utility. We would have had 3 ultimates had we just saved the magic ult, right? But now they're at 82%, and it's fight for the point, right? This is the last fight of the match, and Hulk is going to be dead for it. You know, and if we die now, it's going to be even worse for us, right? We get pulled by Emma, and now what happens? Hulk is back. We are dead for 10 more seconds, but we get rocket res. But what if you didn't have a rocket, right? You know? And now Groot is dead, and now you're struggling just to get on the point. You put all this pressure, all the weight of the world on this one fight whenever it didn't have to be, right? You could have pushed this 6, you could have helped your team a little bit, and you guys had a good situation. 50% is almost nothing, man. Like that, there's a lot that can happen in 50%, but we essentially, instead of making it 50%, we made it 80%, and then now we're in a bad situation. And now your team is scrambling just to come back and touch the point, and they have more resources to do it with. All the while, we have 12 final hits, you know? This is just based off of what we just did. That has nothing to do with the Punisher. He's got 5 final hits. It sucks, I know. But in this situation, we are the driving force that just lost us this interaction. We made this so much harder than it had to be on our team for no reason at all. Like, this could have gone so much differently, right? And I believe you end up losing. You should probably lose off this interaction, right? Like, I would assume based off of, like, given evidence that we have. Yeah. So your team ends up losing off the interaction, and it's just a tough scene, right? Very, very, very tragic, but it happens. Okay, so moving forward, I think this is a pretty good fight, like, to go ahead and look at. So, off rip, it's always good to kind of, like, you can take a second to, like, take in your surroundings, right? Always be looking, you know? Kind of like how, like, an NBA player always is, like, looking up, making sure that seeing what is around them. Soccer players doing the same thing if they have the ball. You want to make sure that you're looking. Kind of like a soccer or basketball term that you want to think about, like, whenever you're not doing, like, immediate action. You want to call it, like, off-the-ball movement. What are you doing? Like, passive movement. Whenever there's not something that directly that you're doing, like, what are you doing? Like, where are you walking to, right? Kind of like, I understand the Wolverine is here. We're, like, looking at the Wolverine, and he's in our sights. But we tunnel vision this really hard. Take a look at, like, what your other teammates are doing, right? Wanda's not even here yet, you know? You have Moon Knight and Groot on the right. You have your healer behind you, and then you have your other healer on the left. So you're kind of splitting in 3 ways, but you're also going for somebody that you have no real-world chance of really killing alone, because Wolverine has 600 HP with his passive, right? So we go in, and then we kind of pressure him, and he ends up walking away. And then, because of that, you know, what's happening above us right now while all this is going on and we're, like, dueling the Wolverine, right? Our team is just, like, straight up losing because we're so separate now. And the Invisible Woman came down to help you after she saw what you're doing. But this is kind of a 2v2 situation that's just really hard. If we, like, go apples to oranges, like, Rocket's healing is a little bit better than Invisible Woman's right now. Wolverine's a little bit tankier than you, and his displacement is really good. you know? Especially at killing low health people. Wolverine is a great character at it. It's not like Magik is that much better than him, you know? This is a really, really, really 50-50-ish fight, and your team is now losing above, right? Because we tunnel vision kind of hard, and we didn't end up taking in our surroundings and, like, moving towards a little bit of a better spot or a better angle. You don't have to always be, like, on the gas pedal with this character, right? Magik is a more methodical dive character.
Too many of them.
And now, because your team ended up losing the fight, it's kind of a sticky situation, right? Where now we are in a really bad position because now the Wolverine ended up getting help. We were winning the fight against the Wolverine, but we lost the fight up top because we didn't really provide a whole lot of help to him, which is a really, really unfortunate situation. And now all we can do is hope that we die in a fast enough manner that we are going to be on the same respawn timer as our team. This is the same thing that we talked about earlier, and it's going to have really bad effects if it does not play out well. We can even just, like, look at this from a bird's eye view and then just, like, see how this plays out, right? So this is a big issue, and this is what I kind of a lot of times I see, like, people being like, oh, Emma Frost for Magik. This is just a bad ult, right? But even worse than that, you and Invisible Woman died incredibly late, and look at where Penny is. If she doesn't leave now, we're going to give up another 30% just off of this one touch because of what we, as the Magik player, did. And again, we have 12 final hits, but it turns out to not mean anything because we are essentially the reason why we're putting our team in a bad spot here, right? This is a really, really, really rough situation for our team to be in. And luckily, Penny doesn't really go forward that much here. But this could have been really, really bad because now it's a 5-on-6 and they just have to wait. Is the correct option. They have to wait, and if somebody dies early, then it's another stagger, right? And we are the person that initiated this again. So here we come, and again, instead of taking kind of a positioning area over here to the, like, left-hand side where we can, like, come in from the top angle, we came in from the front door. Venom is dead, which is a great thing, but there's not really any way that we could have known about that, right? Good Venom players won't die here. Even some Plat Venom players won't die in this certain corridor because of what just happened. But we could also pressure the backline. If we just go ahead and just take a look at, like, what we would have been able to see if we, like, came from, like, a different angle, right? Look at how far away she is. And what an easy kill this would have been had we come up from up here. Then they're down a healer. And they're down Venom, you know? Coincidentally, Venom dies too. And now you're putting yourself in a really, really grand position, right? But instead, we kind of ended up eating it a little bit because we aren't going to be able to capitalize as much as we, like, really want to here. We'll go ahead and, like, take a look at see, like, what ends up happening from here.
Spider-Man! I got you. I'm into you, Logan.
Okay. We acknowledge that the supports are alone, which is great. This is a fantastic move. And this is good. You killed the supports, and you made a very good play after seeing the rocket. It was alone, and then saw the cloak and dagger was alone as well. And now your team is going to be able to benefit very, very well. You're going to eat off of this really good. Why is she ulting here? I don't know, but it happens. It was a really weird ult, but it's okay. We'll chalk that up to being autofilled or something, you know? That's okay. Okay, I'm only going to talk about this because this is the second fight you've done this now. Like, the last fight, this also happened with you. So I just wanted to go over this a little bit because it's, like, pretty rough. I don't know if you're typing or something like that, but, like, incredibly avoidable. You know, really, really, really avoidable. I don't really know what was going on here, but this by itself can be really detrimental. And I'm only going over this because you did put this in the Discord wanting to know what you could have done better. But this is a very risky, like, 50-50 thing. That can just completely, like, turn a game on its head really, really poorly. Right? I don't know how this fight ends. Yeah, you guys end up losing, and it's because you kind of made this a 5-on-6, like, immediately. More like a 5-on-7 because they had a rocket res go off, and we ended up just, like, straight up dying, you know? That's pretty rough. Pretty bad on the conscience, I know. Okay, so I think this is, like, you're about to ult here, right? This is a much better use of an ult timer, right? because your team is like pushing from another angle, right? This is a perfect like example of like what an off angle is. Your team is coming from one way, you're coming from another, and you're going to provide a lot of pressure just based on like where you're standing. I don't know really why Cloak is like pushing this way, but she is regardless. But you end up ulting here. And again, like it's a good thing that you're ulting, and I actually don't mind this, but I think that it's very important that you kind of wait for a contact to happen with your team first to kind of scramble them a little bit more. Because as of right now, the things that they have to worry about, like in a priority list, because they see you and hear you now, are you first and your team second, because they are going to see and feel you second, right? What we would rather want is your team to like kind of cross this line of scrimmage that we have right here, like an imaginary line, so to speak. And then you would ult as they get much closer to this line and start pressuring the point, right? Because we're just gonna like dive straight in, right? It's very obvious what we're looking to do. And then the Emma's already here. She sees you and she's like, oh, okay. So Magik is up here. So we're gonna deal with her first. She's ulting. And then the team second, right? Because if they kill you and they get rid of your ult, well, that's a really, really big cooldown that they don't have to worry about anymore. It's going to provide them a lot more safety in the long run, obviously. I don't mind the positioning, but just like a little bit earlier on the ult timing would have been much better. Also, like who we're targeting in this fight is really, really rough. Always be looking for squishies. Always be looking for supports in your ult. You can kill support ults in Magic ult. You can do a lot of damage. This is like one of the top tier ults in the game for like switching an entire team fight on its head, because you are such a strong force that you can quite literally just be the MVP of a fight just because you killed one person in an instant, right? It's a blink, you know? But we kind of went on the Wolverine, and again, that's a character that Magik can't really... She'll win in a 1v1, but he's got 600 HP. It's going to take you a long-ass time to do so, right? And again, so we fought him earlier, but I didn't really go over it as much. Spider-Man is one of those characters who's like, you can definitely beat him. Magik versus Spider-Man is really Magik favored. It's incredibly so, because he can't really do damage to you unless you're out of portals. But he's also one of those characters where it's like really hard for you to kill him because he can leave like anytime he wants, right? But if you were to just go in on this person right here, we know Emma doesn't have diamond form. She already used it on us. Going in on the Cloak here would be so good for you and your team, because she would be forced to ult, or she would die before using it if you landed everything rather than killing the Spider-Man, right? Even if you didn't know she had ult, killing healers is your like a really, really, really big priority, because you are so good and efficient at doing it, because this character is really good at sustaining damage that is really high, you know? She dies anyway. I don't know what she was doing, but it's great. Oh, she does have her diamond form back. Crazy. That was my fault.
This is real firepower.
Okay. The fight's really, really up in the air, but it's more 50-50. But unfortunately, it's looking like a loss. You're fighting like hell, but unfortunately, that's just like all she wrote, and then just the breaks. So overall, I don't think that necessarily like your I think that the ultimate that you had was, again, a good timing. But I think that because we did it in such a way that was kind of inefficient, we didn't get anything for it, which is really, really troublesome for our team. But the overall biggest things that I want us to focus on, even though we far and away had the most final hits on our team, I think that this game was incredibly winnable had we just done some other things on a different rotation. That it could have been a completely different game. But we gave up 30% on both of the points, and we were attacking from angles that were incredibly obvious, that were stunting our capability. And if you even go into like a high plat, low diamond game right now, doing that will result you in like 6 final hits at the end of the game if you're lucky. And they're typically because your team is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You want to be the heavy lifter, and though you did do that in the damage department, it sucks that your other damage wasn't able to lock in that well. At the same time, it's not like we did so much better that we're like without blame, right? This is a very, very winnable game, and we kind of gave them the win because of some things that we just didn't do, right? Which is a really, really big, unfortunate situation to be in. But remember, this was a pretty fun game to look at. I think there's a lot of really, really usable stuff in here that a lot of low elo players can really get a hand of and then improve off of. I appreciate you guys watching as always. I love you so much. And make sure you like and subscribe if it helped you. I love you. See ya. Mwah.